Hi, this is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. And this is Tristan. He's a Corgi, and this is an episode of Conversations with a Corgi. And today I want to talk about something that is sort of related to my work with tuning forks, which we've been discussing, and we will continue with that series later on this week, maybe tomorrow. But I have had an amazing, remarkable experience with a Corgi that lives near me, and I wanted to talk about him and some of the lessons we can learn from him today on Conversations with a Corgi. This Corgi's name was Tanner. He was almost 14 years old, and he had DM, degenerative myelopathy, which is a horrible disease in the Corgi breed, in boxers, in German Shepherds, and in some other breeds. And what this is like Lou Gehrig's disease in people. Initially, we thought it was like MS 20 years ago, but now we can see that DM is really more of a gradual loss of nerve function, starting at the back end of the dog, working its way up the spine until they are first paraplegic, then quadriplegic, and then eventually it works its way up into their head and neck. And it is a horrible disease. If anyone has ever known or known anyone who's cared for someone with ALS, you are familiar with the devastation of this disease. Cognitive function is intact until the very, very end. And so you are gradually becoming imprisoned in a body that won't move. And as much as I've had breeders tell me flat out, it's not a painful disease and there are worse things that a dog breed could be prone to, I have to say that DM is devastating, absolutely devastating to the dog's emotional and cognitive life with you. He cannot do what he used to do. And also it is devastating to the people who have to live with these dogs. We love our dogs so much. We have spent years and years developing a deep, important relationship with them. And when they get this horrible disease and we gradually see their loss of function and we have to spend more and more time caring for them, it is not an easy journey. And people make all different choices about how to navigate that journey. I've had 2 dogs with DM myself. I have been very fortunate that because of the work my sister and I do, I have been able to tell very, very, very early in the dog's life that DM is going to be a likely occurrence for my dogs. And I was able, because of the work I do and the knowledge I have, to sustain them for a very long time. And both of my DM dogs died when they were 16 years old after struggling with disease for maybe 3 to 4 years. And in Comet's case, he never ever would walk in his cart. And to his credit, and not mine, I think part of it was that his cart didn't fit him very well, and I was not able to keep it properly adjusted. He was a big, heavy dog, and things just kept sliding out of place, and he just really preferred to be carried or to pull himself along or to go out in his stroller or his wagon, and he did not want to be in that cart. And he watched his brother Winston go through being in a cart and seemed unperplexed by that situation. Winston was completely adapted to being in a cart. He ran around the yard, he chased balls, he went swimming. Nothing stopped him, even in his cart. But it is a devastating disease to see your dog lose his nerve function from the hind end up. And this is what happened with Tanner. And some may argue that it's kind of a good thing when you have so long to prepare for your dog's passing. But it is also kind of a terrible thing because every day you're with him, you see one more little tiny thing that he can't do. And gradually over years, it becomes devastating. And I know that my friend Karen Tyndall right now has little Chi-Chi Charm, who also has DM and is in a quad cart. And Karen is doing a wonderful job of keeping Chi-Chi's spirits up by doing agility with her and playing frisbee with her. And I think a little bit of the tug that she's doing with the frisbee is actually helping keep the dog's strength as long as she can in her spine and some of those upper muscles. And there are many Corgis who have volunteered to participate in a study going out at the University of Missouri with one of the vets there who has been researching this disease. And there's a little Corgi we know now who is getting, I believe, weekly injections of a drug to try to halt the progress of the DM or slow it. and she's giving us updates on it. And there are other Corgis that are part of that study. And of course, all across everywhere, New England, everywhere in the country, we have ice bucket challenges to raise money for study on ALS. And a lot of people with wheel Corgis participate in these events and have raised a lot of money. So it's a devastating disease. And I certainly hope I don't have to go through it again with one of my dogs. Little Tristan here, as much as he has some desirable and undesirable qualities of the breed standard, he is DM clear, and I will not have to go through it with him. And he's such a little peanut anyway. It would be far easier with him than with a 35-pound dog. And it is just so devastating. And so Tanner, and sadly his sister Chloe, who's also a Corgi who lives with the same people, is also struggling with DM. She's just starting to lose her hind legs. They're the same age. And it was really been a long journey for the owner, Joe of Tanner, going through this process with his dog. He, like so many people, was not aware of the disease, didn't know Corgis could get it, didn't know what was going on at first. And thank God in my area, we are just minutes from Eddie's Wheels. Vets in this area are super familiar with DM. And so it was diagnosed early. But for a lot of people, their vets don't even know what's going on with their dogs. And they can't tell whether it's disc disease or spinal problems or what. But luckily, Tanner's people did know what was going on with him. And so my friend Linda had gone to see Tanner on Saturday and bring him some ice cream. He was scheduled to cross the Rainbow Bridge on Monday evening. And I had talked to Linda quite a bit about possibly going to see Tanner. And I wasn't sure that I personally could do it, having, only 2 years ago lost Comet and my dog Winston to DM. And Winston was 10 or 15 years ago at this point. And I finally thought about it and realized that, yes, I could go see him, because he would be crossing the Rainbow Bridge and seeing Comet and going into the Great One that is all that is. And I knew that Tanner was actually a connection to my dog Comet and so many other animals I know that have crossed to the other side, and people. And so I suddenly felt very compelled to go see Tanner and connect with him before he made that journey. And I am very fortunate that Joe, like me, had trepidation. He didn't know if he wanted to share his last hours with Tanner with other people and what that might unfold into being. And luckily it was, or surreptitiously or on purpose by great divine design, it turned out to be a wonderful experience for me, Joe, and Tanner, that I got to meet him. I was able to reassure Joe that Tanner was ready. All of his chakras were spinning counterclockwise and slowing and weakening. So he didn't have a lot of time left either way. And he also really responded to the angel tuning forks, which we talked about in my last conversations with a Corgi. Hold on, Tristan. Which make this very high sound, 4,000 hertz and above. And I think you can hear these. I don't know. Tuning forks don't always come out on the sound. So he really responded to that. You could see that he was relaxing. And I'm sure other people who do energy work could have almost seen his body separating from his spirit a little bit when he heard the sound of the angel tuners. I put frankincense on his crown chakra, which is something we've done for centuries in different belief philosophies to help connect with spirit and with the spiritual realm. And I did some craniosacral therapy and Reiki with Tanner, also to help ease some of his pain when his person, Joe, told me that he had been on codeine and some other things for some pretty serious wounds on his chest, skin wounds. I knew that he needed some body work as well. And he really responded to that. He was sort of almost like moaning a little bit before I did that, and then he was able to go into a very peaceful sleep, which is an important part of processing for anyone, a dog or a human. And Joe said in the afternoon of the next day, when the vet came to help him over the Rainbow Bridge, that Tanner was again sleeping very peacefully like that in a very deep sleep. And I was very happy to meet Chloe, Tanner's sister, and do some adjustments for her to help her keep going as long as possible, and to make some suggestions for her health and nutrition so that she can live a long and happy life. But it's really the lessons that we get from our senior pets and our dogs are so important. And in the movie that I'm in about horses from our retreat at Equinicity called Herd, one of the quotes they took from me to put in that movie is when I said, animals are here to teach us about living and dying, and that's why their lives are shorter than ours. And that's why we love them so much, because that's what sustains us when we've lost an animal. Our love for them and our love for all animals like them and all animals is what keeps us going through that hardship of loss. And it is so painful. I mean, 2, 3, 5 years out on that dog's birthday or anniversary, we still feel their presence. They are always with us. And it is such an important lesson for us to get that. And our pets are such a vital part of that process of us understanding what happens during the process of leaving the earth plane. And I'm grateful. I want to mention Dr. Bernie Siegel's book, Buddy's Candle, which if you look back long ago in Conversations with a Corgi, one Sunday I read the entire book for Conversations with a Corgi. And this little book is about loss and about what happens when a dog dies and about how our connection with them is sustained even after they're gone. It's a really important little book that Bernie Siegel wrote that helps anyone who has faced any kind of loss. And given what's going on in Texas and now Louisiana, loss is on everyone's minds right now. It is so difficult to wonder and not know, how are the animals, how are the people and their pets doing. I've heard interviews with cattle ranchers trying to move 2,500 head of cattle to high ground, and the horses swimming up to their saddle horns with their cowboys trying to help move those cattle to a safer place. I mean, it's just unbelievable what's going on in terms of loss and courage in Texas. And Tanner reminds us of that. He was really ready to move on, and God bless his person for honoring his wishes and being able to do that. I think it is one of the hardest things that a person ever has to face, to make that decision for their pet. And I have been very fortunate, because I especially ask my pets when I get them, please don't put me in that position. Please don't ever make me have to make that choice. And knock on wood, all of my animals have heard me, and even my horses have died naturally, and I have not had to resort to drastic means. But certainly I would if I had an animal in grave suffering and no hope of recovery. I would be just like everyone else, with our older pets when we don't know what to do for them. So it was really a privilege and an honor to meet Tanner and Joe and his Corgi sister Chloe, and to be reminded of how our animals help us learn about living and dying in a really profound way, and how crossing the Rainbow Bridge is really a beautiful spiritual experience, although it is filled with sadness. But that charge of emotion we get at that time makes us much more spiritually sensitive and more aware of things like one of my clients, after her dog passed, she had a tiny sparrow come to her window every day for weeks, the same bird. She could see by his markings and how close he was. And she knew that was a message from her giant dog who had passed recently. And so messages come to us in ways that we would probably not be as sensitive to if we hadn't just had an animal cross the Rainbow Bridge. So it is really an important experience of learning for us that our animals give us when they move on. And I know that when I lost Comet, I heard him barking every night for a few weeks from his corner of the kitchen. And it was at the time that he passed. And Tristan heard it too. He got up every night and went over to check Comet's spot where we had candles burning, LED ones, to see if Comet was there. And he sniffed around. And I know it was Comet's spirit just coming to check in with us and reassure us. And many people have reported similar experiences when they've lost their pets, or the sense of a lost pet being there right at their shoulder at a time when they really need them, like when they get some bad news years later. Or for me, I feel the presence of my horses when I'm working with a horse that's really coming unglued and really frazzled. I am able to feel the presence of my horse Burgers, who is very calm in his older years, helping that horse settle. And so, and certainly Dr. Upledger from the Upledger Institute, who does craniosacral therapy and has now also crossed the Rainbow Bridge, people have felt his presence during sessions, and he reported feeling the presence of dolphins and departed whales and killer whales during sessions he was doing. And certainly Bernie Siegel has spoken about angels around the beds of some of the people he was treating, and angels coming into the hospital during surgery and things when he really needed guidance and help. And in fact, he has a funny story about angels being at the head of a little boy's bed, and they said that when they were there again, they would be coming to take the little boy. And Bernie said, no way. So he turned the bed around so that the little boy's head was where his feet had been. And in fact, a while later, the angels came and said, oh, Bernie, you can't fool with us. And in fact, it was time for that little boy to move on. But people have spoken in great detail about experiences like this. And it is an important part of our lives to deal with death of people we know, animals we love, people we love. And, you know, in our daily lives, it is a part of living. And it's so hard for us, depending on your spiritual practice, your religious beliefs, your culture. It is very difficult for people to deal with loss like this. And I know so many people right now who have lost pets or loved ones. And, you know, these are animals like my friend Rose, who lost Mickey lately, her little Sheltie. She has learned so much from him. Her life changed from that dog. She became a dog trainer. She became a Tellington T-Touch practitioner, all during the time that she knew that dog. Just like with Comet for me, I learned everything I know about animal craniosacral therapy from Comet and my dog Winston, and then later my horses. And you know, it's a huge part of your life that is no longer part of your life on the physical plane. But as some of you may recall, I have Comet's skull, and that is a part of my craniosacral classes for small animals, and always will be, because Comet was such an important part of those classes. And I felt like having a piece of him in every class would be important and a learning opportunity for people. And so I have that and keep it with me for those classes. And he lives right next to where Tristan sleeps. So I am wanting to thank Tanner and Joe for giving me the opportunity to meet beautiful Tanner before he crossed the Rainbow Bridge, and reminding everyone here of death being part of the life process. And we don't know what's happening. There's lots written about it. Nobody really knows for sure, because very few people have come back. And there are many people like me who have had near-death experiences, and lots of books and talk about what that's like. And I am convinced that death that's permanent as opposed to a near-death experience is no different. And that is this connection with the great all that is, that connection to everything that has ever been and ever will be, that connection to source, to divinity, to whatever you want to call it. There is like a collective energy and a collective spirit in all of the universe. And when you are no longer in a physical form, you are part of that, and so are your pets when they leave their physical body. And so they really are, in that sense, with us all the time. And the lessons they teach us are always with us, and our love for them is always with us. And so in that way, they are never really gone from our lives. And thank God for cuddle clones, because so many people miss hugging their pets. And cuddle clones will make you a life-size replica of your dog or cat, or even a horse, but that's not life-size, that you can still hug. And I love this company. So they're expensive, And you might want to get it done for your dog when he's 7 or 9, not when he's 15, because it might be too painful after he's gone. But certainly Cuddle Clones is a wonderful company. And I've seen another company lately where they make smaller statues painted exactly like your dog. And they're a couple $100. They're only a little less expensive than a Cuddle Clone. But still, it's really important to find a physical reminder of your dog if you are a person that really needs that hug and that comfort. And of course, for me, I always have another dog, and I hope I always do. That would be really unbelievable if I had no dog after I lost one. But there are plenty of dogs that need love in the world, and so there's always a dog out there for people who want one. So this has been Sally Morgan and Tristan Corgi, and we're here today to honor Tanner Corgi, who taught us so many lessons during his final hours and days of life, and to also remind everyone that we really need to advocate a lot of these diseases that are endemic in certain breeds, Cavaliers with SM, Corgis with DM. We need to really just keep asking and pleading with breeders to give us healthy dogs, because that's what we want and need, and that's the only fair thing to the dogs. Who cares what the dog looks like as long as it's healthy? And yes, we want the breeds to still look like what they are, because that's part of what we love about them. But you know what? I would give 5 of my dog's great breed characteristics easily in order to have him last longer and not succumb to DM, and to be able to retain his healthy, active life that dogs love. So let's spend some time today thinking about our lost dogs and our lost loved humans as well. We can do a heart hug, crossing your hands over your heart, imagining the face of a clock with the 6 here and the 12 here, making a circle and a quarter, coming back up to the 9 as you inhale and exhale. And you can close your eyes and just think about 3 things you love about your dog that has crossed the rainbow bridge. 3 things you love about the dog that you still have with you, or the person that has crossed the rainbow bridge. So let heart hugs be a part of your life and a way to connect with those who we have lost across the rainbow bridge. They are a truly important thing for me in my yoga classes and in my spiritual practice. And I am grateful that Linda Tellington developed heart hugs, because they really are important. So, and check out Buddy's Candle if you haven't ever looked it up. It's on Amazon, and it's a small little paperback book, not too much of an expense, and it's a great gift for anyone who has lost a loved one. So this is Sally Morgan and Tristan Corgi for another episode of Conversations with a Corgi, and we will be back tomorrow to talk more about tuning forks. Hi, Patty D and Suzanne. Thanks for joining us this morning. And also, I have to add on a humorous note that yesterday, posting from my tiny iPhone, I misspelled the word duck and created quite a stir of hilarity amongst many people that saw our post on Facebook. Tristan is doing very well after having his raw bone. He's really happy. He is looking forward to one that is from a duck. So if you are looking at that post, that's what the comments are about, those typos. And of course, spell check and auto check don't correct things all the time. So we will see you again tomorrow. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great day, everyone.